Renan Lourenco. I'm the Senior Technical Product Manager in InterSystems, looking after Health Connect. And in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to show you a few tricks on how we can simplify mirroring when dealing with Health Connect and Iris for Health for that matter. So there are a few extra steps we can do while configuring mirroring that allows us to leverage some automation that is pretty neat. And although this is documented, if you are familiar with Iris and you know how to mirror Iris, you're probably never going to look into the documentation to see how it should be done in Health Connect and Iris for Health, so you miss out some of those steps. So that's why we're going to talk a little bit about this, which is the why of the session. So basically, as I just mentioned, InterSystems Iris and the core health products, they behave slightly different, including the way we should create interoperability namespaces and how we can leverage the mirroring and the creation of those namespaces. So if you have a quick look here, to your left side, what you see is if you're on an Iris instance, you would go to the namespace definition. You can define there whether that's going to be an interoperability production enabled namespace, and you create your namespace and go on with it. If you're using a health core platform, namely Health Connect or Iris for Health, what you should do is to use the installer wizard, where you can access from a different menu, and I'm going to show this in a little bit. And there are a few reasons for that. So there are a few scripts that run in the background, and one of those scripts is regarding mirroring. So if you have mirror enabled and configured the proper way, you're going to see some cool stuff happening in the background. So just to have an idea, this is not a recommended architecture by any means. It's just the architecture I have here on my demonstration. But basically, I have 2 instances of Health Connect mirrored, and I have 2 web gateways that are mirror aware. I have 2 dedicated web gateways for each instance as well, 1 arbiter and 1 load balancer. And we're going to see how all that plays together. So this is a very lightweight presentation in terms of slides, and we're going to jump right into the demo and see how all this looks. Okay. So basically, what you're going to have at the end of this presentation, and I think you can access this from the PDF on the app as well, is a link to a GitHub repository, which has pretty much all the code that I'm going to be demonstrating here. This, if you have a Health Connect or an Iris container license, you can basically follow all the steps and get this running in Docker, and it should be easy enough to replicate everything that I'm doing. If you don't have, you can still replicate the steps on your on-prem environment, your local environment. Those steps are meant to be unique regardless of where you are. The only difference here, if you have the container, is that you can use these environments as opposed. I'm not going to read through everything. I'm going to just go through the steps. You can do that later on, but basically here is just explaining a little bit the architecture I just mentioned about it. A few things regarding where the license files should go. So there are 2, because we have different versions of Iris for Health, and Health Connect, being like ARM chips and Intel chips or AMD chips, we have different license for that as well. So you just need to follow. It's pretty self-explanatory there, but like you just put the license you have on the right place, and things should work. And it has all the details here. Again, if you have access to the container repository and also have a license, you should be able to follow this through. If you don't worry. You can skip right into actually configuring everything. So I'll go ahead and just start my environment so we can start seeing some stuff going on here. So those you can see here, they're all the exact exact containers I mentioned about before. So you have the arbiter, 2 instances of Health Connect, several web gateways, and a load balancer. You have links to access all of them, accessing Health Connect via the load balancer or via dedicated web gateways, and they should all be super user sys as credentials, so it should be easy enough to get there. A few things to mention about regarding the documentation. Everything that I'm doing here is documented, so you can go ahead and read through in a little bit more details that I don't get into this repository all that much. But basically, there are a few things I'm leveraging here. One of them, for this particular case, is deploying Health Connect using, or actually pre-configuring the mirroring using the CPF merge. And there are a few things if I'm lucky enough to get enough internet. Yeah, so you have a bunch of stuff here. And yeah, down here you can find also the healthcare products, specific mirroring steps. So everything that I'm doing, it's based off that. You have all the configuration files you can look through. And including, like, I think this is the one, yeah, including configuring the web gateway mirror aware and things like that if you're not familiar with it. So you can dig into more details. So let's dive into it. This is the first step, and this is the maximum I can automate at this stage, which is basically saying, spin up those 2 environments for me. I have a naming convention I'm following, and I want them to be mirrored. And Iris will know, and Health Connect will know, and Iris for Health will know what to do with it. So basically here is just a pre-configuration. You could do this manually. I'm just saving some time by pre-configuring this. And in the end, what you get is, let me just access one of those links and make this way bigger, because right now it's not. Okay, so you can see that my environment is already defined as mirrored. Nothing has happened yet. There's no database like I have created, so there's nothing mirrored. But the system itself, it's already identified as having that connection. So that's all that the CPF merge did, right? Now, moving forward, one of the things that is specific of the healthcare products is mirroring HSys, which is a configuration database that comes by default with the product. And again, this has pieces in the documentation of what we should do. Basically, here is pretty much as you would do with any other database mirror. So you go into the database, HSys, all right, and edge mirror, and that should be it, right? That's the first step. And now we need to make sure that this is also mirrored in the backup member. So there are a few things here that we need to do. That's basically expected. So we're going to dismount the database and then move them. Again, if you're using those containers, things should be very straightforward. There is already like directories mapped. So it should be easy enough for us to do that. So now, just going to dismount this. This is the HSys we just mounted. We just flagged as mirrored. And I go ahead and go inside my container and copy my database file to a temp directory. This temp directory is shared, so I can see from the backup member. That's all I'm doing, is just moving the database file pretty much. That should be it. Now I'm going to go ahead and mount that database again. So we have it up and running. And as far as the mirroring identification of the database on the primary member is concerned, we are all done. Now what we need to do is basically move that database into the backup member. So now I'm going to open the dedicated web gateway for the backup member, dismount the current HSys that is there, and then again go inside my backup container and then just move the file. This is just move command from the same directory I had moved the original HSys mirrored HSys database, and that's it. So it's moved. Again, you can replicate this in any environment pretty much. Now, okay, so I don't mess up with all this. Just gonna open from here. I'll just go ahead and mount this again. And it should be it, right? So if you go to, oops, shouldn't have done that. If you go to the mirror monitor, yeah, you can see that HSys is there. We need to activate that and catch up. So until here, there isn't anything new if you are familiar with configuring a mirror database. This is pretty much standard. The tricky here is having HSys mirrored. So this is where you actually get the benefit later. So this is like a pre-configuration for the healthcare products, and then we can start having some benefits out of it. One of the things that is required, I'd say, is that you use VIP or a load balancer as your network. So it can figure where to go. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. The configuration, okay, this is the wrong environment, this is the wrong environment. This is the right environment. So the configuration here, it's done through the health menu. You go on the installer wizard, and then you have configure network and host name. And we want the load balancer or the VIP to be the configuration here. In our case, I think the load balancer is creatively called load balancer. So we can just add this there. Once this is done, the other piece we have is activating a task that is responsible for catching up configurations on the HSys. So it does some tricks behind the scenes that are not necessarily relevant for us. The only thing we need to know is that this task has to be running. So I'll go ahead and run that, and this task has to be activated on the backup member, and then things will flow accordingly. So I'll go ahead and just log to my Iris terminal on the backup member on the hslib namespace. And this is and again, this is all documented. This is the task, how you configure the task. So I'll go ahead, execute this, get out of there. So now, if we look at our, and I keep doing that, our task schedule, super user says, and why did I click on the sorting? Okay, I just missed. Yeah, mirror monitor launch task. So this is the one that was just added. So as soon as this task starts running, we can start getting the benefits that I was mentioning about, and I'm going to show you what that means. The other thing that I so I skipped over. Just make sure that HSys is properly configured. You have the credentials and all that. The reason I'm saying that, for instance, on my new deployment, I have HSys disabled by default. So I want to make sure it's enabled. If you already have this done on your environments, you don't need to worry about, but just because this is a new deployment for me, I want to make sure that it is configured correctly. So just go ahead on the 2 instances I have and change that to enabled. Make sure that the password is happy with what I want. And that should be it. Now, this is where all the configuration is done. So creating a mirrored namespace from now on, and any mirrored namespace would be as simple as, and let me close this. So I'm on the load balanced web gateway. So to create a namespace, interoperability enabled namespace, to be clear, you go to the installer wizard under the health menu, and you create a foundation namespace. So you basically configure a foundation namespace. So just go ahead and create a test namespace here. I'm going to specify that this is mirrored. I'm going to save that and activate. So this, you can see that there's, the text is going to change here, but basically that's just verbals in the scripts I was mentioning about. So there are a few things that run behind the scenes that are not even related to mirroring, but it's related how the healthcare related namespaces are created in all healthcare products, or core products, I should say. So this is just going to do its magic, and by the end of it, you're going to have an activated namespace, meaning fully configured namespace, and you can basically just use that namespace. And it should be mirrored already. So activation is done. You know that your HSSys, mirroring HSSys steps are not properly done if you get stuck here. If you never see this activation done, there is something missing. So there are two things to consider. One is either the steps were not configured properly, and we have a guest. Are you interested in mirroring as well? So you either don't have HSSys configured properly, or, and it happened to me more than once, the task was not activated or was not running for whatever reason. And because I'm a person with no patience whatsoever, when I was doing this, and it's containers, and and I was scripting a lot of this, so I would run things really fast and just look and see, okay, is my namespace mirrored or active? And it would not be active yet, because the first time that the task has to run has never happened. So it would just get stuck, and would take about like a minute and a half, and then would clear out. So if you leave it here for like 2 minutes and is still not activated, then something is wrong. Then you can, double check a few of the steps. But now that I have on my primary member my namespace created, I can go ahead and use one of my links here, my dedicated web gateway. Okay, so if I go to my mirror configuration, I can already see that my test namespace is there. And we can go ahead and even do slightly more. I just go to a production, start this production here. I also want to auto start this production. Okay. Now, if I go to my backup member, we can already see that, okay, it's configured, it's running. I cannot see anything from here. If I go to the auto start production, it should already be there, and we can force test and see what's going on. So if I go back to my page here, I have also just a quick RS restart on the primary member. So just go ahead into the bash and restart RS. So now I have my load balancer port 88 pointing to Health Connect 0, which used to be my primary, and now it's offline. So you can see that automatically changed already to Health Connect 1. It already basically failed over to the backup member, so this is already a primary, and the production is running. So after I have HSSys configured properly, it took me only the installer wizard step to create the namespace, and that namespace is automatically mirrored. And that should be true for any namespace going forward. So if I need to create another 10 namespaces, the steps would be the same. I go to the health menu, installer wizard, and configure as many as you want. And they should be automatically mirrored. So that's what you gain with having HSSys mirrored by default. Now, I know a lot of times scripting things, even if it's as simple as just having HSSys mirrored, it's nice, especially because you want replicability. You want to always, every time you create a new environment, you want to make sure everything happens the same way. What I did is basically added a few, and this is also on the repo here, you can see, so there's a little bonus at the end if you change one of the classes, and I'm going to show in a minute, the auto mirror to 1 and spin up the containers, everything I just did happens automatically. And you have all the scripts here, so you can see them. The auto mirror, it's in this loader class. It's all there on the repo. You can read through. But basically, if you change this to 1, bring down the containers, bring them up, it's going to execute this class here. And this has all the steps I just did. So it basically dismounts, mark HSys on the primary as mirrored, dismount the database, copy, mount again, and then on the backup, dismount, move the file, mount again, change the network, make sure HS services user is enabled, and that's pretty much it. So basically, you have everything scripted there. It should be easy enough to follow, to replicate, create your own. Feel free to use as you wish. The repository is public, and you should also have, and I'm going to put this on the screen just so it's easy if you want to. You should have the link on the PDF, the QR code if you want to access the repo. But that is it for me, and I hope it was as simple as you would imagine it would be. Thank you.